Hey, it's Louise Hvala and you're watching Gatehouse Insights. On today's episode, I'm joined by Madeleine Dupuche, who is the Executive Director at the College of Law. So Madeleine, thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your professional journey and how it's led you to your current position with the College of Law.
Well, Louise, I did my law arts degree at Melbourne Uni a long time ago, last century, and always had an interest in teaching. But fell in love with the law. I kind of probably did law at that time in people's careers where we didn't have as much career guidance, and people who were strong in humanities went into law, but really loved it. So I went to a major firm, did my articles, as they were at the time, and worked in Melbourne for a little while, worked in London for a little while. But all the while, probably one of the things that I really enjoyed in my role was the mentoring of the younger lawyers and some involvement in the induction program for new article clerks, graduates as they would now be, and that was always in the back of my mind how much I enjoyed that, and the little teaching voice probably got louder and louder. So after the birth of I left major firm and went to a mid-tier practice in the city for a little while, and then a suburban practice, I think chasing that kind of thing that probably was only going to come from teaching. And after the birth of my first child, I started to do a dip ed on the side whilst I was working, thinking I'll just maybe pathway into teaching. So after I had my second daughter, I went off and completed a little bit of teaching. Kind of went full circle from practicing law to a high school environment, realised that probably wasn't quite the right spot for me. So ended up back at university, which was probably a mid-ground. And then that also was probably a little bit far away from practice. So the decision then was, a role came up at the college, and I sort of looked into that, not really knowing much about the college, and probably found my happy place there, which is education but very close to practice, and really working closely with young practitioners who are, young students I should say, who are transitioning from student to early career practitioner. It's a lovely privileged spot to be. Yeah.
How long did it take you before you realised you were in your happy place? Did you do anything like particular to get there?
I think when I saw the job description for a lecturer position as I started at the college, and I saw the job description and I thought, wow, I never thought there'd be a job description that actually matched my CV, which is law and teaching, and that's exactly what it was. And within a few weeks of starting, I thought, this is great. This is really lovely sort of role, really enjoyable, challenging, interesting. So I usually have about a 3-year attention span to anything, and then I say, right, I'm ready to do something different. But I've been there for coming up to 7 years, okay. It's definitely the right place for me at this point in time.
And how do you find the transition from, I suppose, practicing law to more of an academic role?
Well, it's interesting, you use the word academic, and I guess there's a differentiation between an academic and an educator in my mind, and I would see myself as an educator rather than an academic. So traditionally at university, academics will have a focus, and a big part of their role is research and looking into the detail of a particular area of the law for a legal academic, whereas an educator is really more focused on the teaching side of things. So my role and those of our staff at the college is very much around teaching law students how to practice as lawyers and how to do the skills that are required in order to meet your day-to-day requirements of an early career lawyer. And legal education is very much structured in Australia such that first it's theory and then it's practice, unlike most of the other professions where day one of a teaching qualification, day one of medicine, you're thinking about the patient, you're thinking about the student. We don't tend to think so much about the client until much later. So it's quite different to the practice of law, but it's also quite different to an academic role. I taught at Deakin in the law school there for a few years, quite a few years, and one of the subjects that I taught was contract law. And so that's the first substantive law subject that Deakin law students do when they're looking at, all the history of contract law and the High Court decisions and so forth. But there's not a great deal of focus in the structure of legal education on how do you draft a contract and what would make a contract fit for purpose for a client. So that's the difference in I guess, what we do at the college. Yeah.
For lawyers wanting to take that step to be to change careers or to go into the education sector, what advice or tips would you give them to take that step?
If you're wanting to move into academia as a lawyer, you really need to go and do a PhD. So in order to get a tenure as an academic in a university, you need to have a PhD. So really to be doing research and writing and so forth. That's essential. But certainly to start exploring areas of particular passion and interest. There's a lot of universities that are now offering roles to current practitioners to come in and teach in their master's program, for example. So it's worth investigating opportunities to do that. We have a number of people at the college who are also teaching in universities and in practice as well. So there's lots of scope to kind of build that in, I think, and I think firms are quite supportive of their staff being involved in education. Practical legal training is a different thing, which is using the skills that you've obtained as a practitioner to teach the next generation. So no PhD required, but lots of practical experience required. But further study, I guess, is the next step towards a career in academia. Yeah.
You mentioned before you worked in boutique, mid-tier and top-tier firms.
Yeah.
Can you comment on the differences?
Probably not in 25 words or less. All quite different, I guess, in terms of the amount of support that you have around you, the number of colleagues that you have, the independence versus being part of a team, and the types of clients that you're working with. So in a top-tier firm you tend to be, well, my role certainly was focused on a corporate client. Mid-tier there was a bit of a mix of private clients and corporate clients, and then in suburbia it was mum and dad clients. So I guess the clients is probably the biggest difference between them. Still kind of similar work in terms of problem solving and thinking about what is this issue for this client, how can the law help them to resolve that issue, but very different clients. Yeah.
Now moving on to flexibility in the work environment, you've been able to manage flexible working arrangements with the College of Law. Can you tell us what's worked really well and what hasn't worked well, and what advice you'd give someone looking to go on flexible working arrangements? I
think I've been really fortunate that I've been able to work flexibly really since the time that I had children, and I have done that either by some working from home, some roles working partly from home, but also in part-time roles. And I think the key to flexible work is really good communication. That's what makes it work. What made it work for me as an employee working flexibly, and now as an employer of a number of people working flexibly, and we're trying to make that possible for as many people as are wanting to do it in our team. It's about good communication. Sort of seems to still be a mindset that if someone's not in the office, then it must be that they're not at work that day, and you'll still hear people saying, oh, I don't want to ring that person because it's their day out of the office. But the whole idea is that they're still at work, but they're just not physically there, so you should be able to contact them in the same way that you could if they were down the hall in their room. So it's really about the person who's choosing to work flexibly ensuring that people are comfortable to contact them and know how to contact them on that day that they're at home, if it's a working from home arrangement, and that's communicated really well to the team, but also just good communication between manager and employee around how that, what they will do on those days at home and how they'll be contacted and when they'll be contacted and so forth. And part-time work as well, I think there's good scope for that. It's just about having clear expectations on both sides. It has to work for the business, but it has to also work for the individual.
Should they communicate with the other colleagues within the firm or company about their arrangements?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that it's open, it's understood by everyone on the team that Louise on this particular day is working from home, but her phone extension, my phone on the days that I worked from home, or still do from time to time, my phone is always forwarded to my mobile. So people ring my extension and they get me answering the phone, and I'm just on my mobile rather than sitting in the office. So phones forwarded, emails being checked on a regular basis. There's no reason why it can't work. I mean, the technology is amazing compared to, I've got a 17-year-old now, so when I think about trying to work flexibly as a part-timer when my daughter was first born, and I didn't even have a mobile phone. So internet has changed the way that we work and should do,
How did you do it back then?
Not very well, not very well. I was at home by my computer a lot of the time, with the home phone. So I was at home, but I didn't have the freedom to sort of pop out and do anything because I needed to still be contactable. So it was a lot harder than it is now, where we can check our phones.
Was that while you were at the firm practicing?
Yeah. But I was part-time, but I was looking after litigation, so there were often matters where things happened on days that I wasn't in the office. And the technology just wasn't far enough advanced for it to be workable for me then, like it would be now, and like it is for a lot of young lawyers that I work with and mentor who are able to be really successful in that regard. Yeah.
I wanted to move on to women in senior levels within firms and companies.
Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest challenge and why they're not at that level?
I think the biggest challenge is that as a society we still have a mindset that there is this mindset that women are the primary caregivers of our children. We haven't yet moved on to seeing that men and women, a lot of the young men that I know want to parent their children as actively as their partners do, where there's a male and female couple, but we haven't sort of moved on to saying there's two parents. Regardless of gender, they both want to parent their children, and we should be able to arrange for both to be able to work flexibly. So I think until we get to flexible work equally available for men and for women, and that doesn't need to be sort of an explanation around it, that's what's actually holding us back from having more women in senior roles. It's sort of got to provide for both parties to be able to, as a couple, choose how they're going to parent their children and work around that a little bit.
How long do you think society will take before it all changes?
I think it's rapidly changing, actually. I think that people are seeing it work, and so it's happening. I'd like it to have happened a bit faster, but I think it's rapidly changing at the moment, and technology is enabling that, and people are getting better at having conversations and understanding that it doesn't really matter where you are, as long as you're contactable by your clients and by your colleagues, then you can do your work as well as if you were sitting behind the desk in the office. So we're getting there, I think, Louise. We're getting there, yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about College of Law and how it can help people with their career and at the start and even at, I suppose, that senior level.
Well, we are very much a school of professional practice, so I guess that's why I steered you away from the term academia before, because we're all about practice and learning how to be a legal practitioner. So from the 1970s, the college was established in New South Wales when articles were abolished. So the concept of how you train to become a lawyer was such that in the 1970s in New South Wales you had to do a practical legal training course, and the college was established to provide that to law graduates. So we've been in existence for over 40 years doing that, in Victoria for about the last 12 years. And so we have this very privileged role of guiding young law graduates from being a law student to effectively being a early career practitioner. We work with 16 major firms to help their graduates to make that transition. So it's a real privilege to just help them to put together all the pieces of the puzzle. I always say you sort of come out of your law school, your law degree with a bucket full of Lego. I make the Lego analogy because I have a lot of Lego at my house. A bucket full of Lego and all these different pieces from all your different subjects, but you haven't quite worked out how to put them all together. So they come to the college and we help them work out how to put it all together. But we do then continue to work with practitioners throughout their career, in early career, professional development, through to the masters, which is again an applied law masters. So the masters that the college offers is specific to practical skills around how to better understand how to do a particular task. So Family Law Masters is very focused on what a family lawyer will be doing day in, day out. So not too much theory, lots and lots of practical as we learn it from the profession. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's one bit of advice you'd give our audience watching about their legal careers?
I think in this current market, lawyers need to build their skills beyond just their technical legal skills. We've kind of come from a time, our legal education is still from a time where we were the keepers of the loose leaf service, and that's changed, where it's very much a buyer's market now rather than a seller's market. So to be successful as a lawyer, you need to be able to really engage with your clients, have a conversation with them, understand their business. So drill in, think outside the square, understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, so that you can take the law and use your technical legal skills to work out how best to help them achieve that, using the law to their advantage, or working around the legal challenge that they're faced with. But unless we really understand our clients and ask the right questions and really listen to what the answers are that they're giving, then it's very hard for us to actually come up with really good solutions. So the key, I think, to success in a law career these days is all about that professional judgment and problem solving for a client. And if you can do that, then I think you've got a long and successful career ahead of you. Whatever happens with artificial intelligence, judgment and problem solving will always be required by our profession.
Is this something the College of Law also helps with practitioners?
Absolutely. We've established in the last 18 months a Centre for Legal Innovation, which is a sort of new centre that's been established by the college, and we're heavily investigating what is going on, what the future of the profession looks like, and what are the skills that will be needed by the future of the profession, so that we can ensure that the young lawyers that we're working with are ready for whatever lies ahead.
Where do you see the future of the profession headed?
I think it will change a lot over time. But I think it was Bill Gates who once said that as a society, human beings have invariably overestimated the short-term impact of technology and underestimated the long-term impact of technology. So there's a lot of hype at the moment around technology, artificial intelligence in the law, and I think we probably have overestimated the short-term impact of that, but we shouldn't underestimate what the long-term impact will be. You only have to think about how we go to the bank now compared to how we went to the bank 10 years ago, and I think that every profession will see changes afoot due to technology and innovation.
Madeleine, this has been wonderful, so thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me, Louise. Great to talk to you. Thanks.
Now, Madeleine and I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's conversation? Comment and share below and let us know. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our channels and share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Gatehouse Insights.